Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. I wanted to make this video because right now I keep seeing two types of videos everywhere. On one side, you've got people saying Dubai is finished, Dubai is going to crash, this is the beginning of the end, which is mostly from people who've never even been to Dubai. And on the other side, people are saying that just be patient, everything is going to be fine. Anybody who invested in Dubai during a chaos has always made a profit. And honestly, both sides were slightly frustrating to me. On one side, you've got negativity, which gets a lot of attention. And on the other side, it's mostly just blind faith or people trying to sell you something. Very few people are actually explaining why they believe what they believe. So I wanted to make this video for people who already have their capital or future plans tied to Dubai. Maybe you invested in property in Dubai, maybe you were planning to invest, or maybe you're invested in Dubai in some other way, shape, or form. And because of the recent conflict, you might be thinking that what happens next? What should I expect from Dubai? Or what are the risks over here? So I thought I'd do something a little bit more useful for investors. I wanted to analyze Dubai through historical patterns. Basically, I wanted to study other cities and countries that had a somewhat similar structure or role in the global economy and then ask a simple question that when they went through a serious conflict or a major instability, what happened during that period? But more importantly, what happened after that whole conflict was over for them? Because every conflict eventually comes to an end. The real question is not whether this ends. The real question is that how long will it last and what kind of effects will it have moving forward? And like a lot of us finance guys have a saying is that history may or may not repeat itself, but it does rhyme. So in this video, we are going to be studying historical patterns of Hong Kong, Kuwait, and Lebanon. And especially Lebanon, because I feel that Lebanon is really the cautionary tale of the Middle East. And I would really encourage you to stick around in the video till the end, because in the end of the video, I'm also going to be touching upon the two scenarios that could possibly unfold for Dubai and what will that mean for Dubai moving forward. The best case scenario, the worst case scenario, and everything in between, right? So stick around and watch the video till the end. Now, quickly for context, if you're wondering who am I and why am I even speaking about Dubai's economy and particularly Dubai real estate on a channel that is mainly about trading. So my name is Shaun. This channel is primarily about trading and investing in the US stock market. And the way I have always approached any kind of markets is fundamentals first, rest everything second. That's how I think, that's how I analyze the markets, and that's also how I'm looking at Dubai's economy in this video. Now, I also live here, so I've got boots on the ground. And on top of that, before I went into full-time trading, I've spent over 4 years working as a senior marketing professional in Dubai real estate industry. And being in that role really forced me to study the market and the products on a much deeper level than a lot of people even that are in the industry ever really need to go that much deeper. So I'm not making this video as a broker trying to sell you a property, and I'm not making this video as somebody who's never even been to Dubai and is just pushing a doomsday narrative from the outside. I have absolutely nothing to sell you in this video. I'm simply sharing my thoughts and my analysis, and if you choose, you can use them for yourself and think better for yourself. Now, starting off, I wanted to address something that I keep hearing a lot of Dubai real estate professionals talk about, and that is that whoever invested in Dubai during a chaos has always made money. Personally, I think profits really comes down to investors' own skill or their advisor's skill. Let's say it was actually true. Even then, I'd imagine sophisticated investors, right? To sophisticated investors, it would sound like vague reassurances. Personally, I would want to know real reasons. Why did it recover? What forces were working in Dubai's favor? Or what actually made Dubai so resilient in the first place? Because if we don't know the reason, then we're not investing with conviction. We're simply investing with hope. And hope is not a strategy. So let's get started with the analysis by first understanding why did Dubai property prices rose to begin with. And this part matters because if you don't understand why Dubai has been growing, then you really can't judge what this conflict might do to it. In my view, Dubai properties rose because the fundamentals underneath the city are pretty solid and they keep getting stronger. In a healthy economy, if things are stable and inflation exists, property prices in general will go up over time. But in Dubai's case, property prices weren't just keeping up, they were actually beating inflation and people were making real profits over here. One of the reasons, in my view, is that the infrastructure of the city kept on improving. Dubai has been building and executing on plans like D33, Vision 2040, ease of doing business here, tax advantages, public safety, and overall environment that attracts companies and talent and capital. And government investment in the infrastructure and the economy only increases that confidence of external capital or external investors, and that positively impacts capital inflow and even the property prices. And on top of that, UAE also has does not give you like that personal income tax. So basically it's tax free for every single individuals. And then the safety is also a big one over here. Dubai really does offer a level of public safety and a peace of mind that is genuinely hard to ignore once you've experienced it. That level of trust significantly matters, because if a city is easy to do business in, easy to live in, safe to raise a family, and attractive for professionals and businesses, then naturally more businesses come in. More businesses create more jobs. Jobs attract more talent. More talent drives more population growth, and when population grows, demand across everything grows with it, right? Property, rent, groceries, restaurants, schools, transport, service, all of it. So hopefully that gives you a clear idea of why Dubai has been growing in the first place. In my personal opinion, Dubai was never a hype story. It was always a fundamental story. Now, to understand where Dubai might go from here, let's start by looking at Hong Kong. Now, Hong Kong was a highly prosperous city, especially under the British legal and business system. It was essentially a gateway to China. A lot of major business activities with China and the rest of the world could happen through Hong Kong, and it had a very clear global role. Because of that, the city just kept on growing and the property prices and everything else grew with it. Then in the recent years, around 2019, Hong Kong went through a major civil challenge, right? It wasn't a war in a traditional sense, but it was a major conflict that really shook the investor confidence and affected the city in a significant way. Official economic reports were saying that the unrest hurt tourism and consumption, and Hong Kong's GDP actually ended up contracting by 1.2% in 2019. Now, what I find interesting about Hong Kong is that it didn't really go back to being exactly what it was after the whole unrest just went away. It had to evolve. And in my personal view, while Hong Kong's global presence may not feel like the same old as what it used to look before, the city adapted and became stronger in a very different way. The national security laws over there took effect afterwards, and then the city adapted in a different way, and now it still continues to grow. Fast forward to 2025, it reported a real GDP growth of 3.5%. And that's an important lesson, that a city can go through major disruptions, not fully go back to its original identity, and still remain strong by evolving. Now, the second case is Kuwait. Kuwait in the 1990s is a very important example, because this was not just another instability. This was a much more direct and serious invasion scenario. What interests me about Kuwait is not just that it came back, but it came back so much more stronger. So the real question is that what enabled that recovery for Kuwait? What forces were working in Kuwait's favor? And one of the biggest reasons was that Kuwait had deep financial reserves outside the country, which gave them the ability to rebuild and recover. And that matters a lot, because when a country has real wealth, real reserves, real financial capacity, and when combined with strong leadership, then even if the local economy goes through a major stress, there's still a good chance of recovery. And when I look at Dubai through that lens, that is one of the reasons I remain pretty bullish, because Dubai and the UAE also have deep pockets. They've got trillions of dollars in reserves, no corruption over here, like what we see in a lot of other countries where politicians just keep sucking the country dry over time. And of course, Dubai's leadership, or UAE's leadership, has also been absolutely phenomenal so far. Kuwait teaches us that the financial strength and obviously the willingness to act on that strength matters a lot when it comes to the economy's recovery and for everything to just keep going back to normal and the growth to keep coming back and just go back as what it used to be. And moving on, now the third case is Lebanon, and this is really the cautionary tale of the Middle East, because earlier Lebanon was in many ways ahead of where people think of Dubai today. It used to be known as the Paris of the Middle East. External capital was flowing in, tourism was growing, the economy was growing, and everything else was growing with it. The country had status, it had relevance in the region, and then came the civil war in 1975. And then Lebanon was never really able to recover back to its previous strengths, essentially. So the question naturally becomes, why? What happened there that prevented recovery? Or what did Lebanon do or fail to do that caused the economy to keep sinking lower instead of rebuilding and making a comeback properly? And that's why Lebanon is such an important case study, because it reminds us that not every country bounces back after they go through essentially difficult times, right? And in Lebanon's case, unfortunately, the economy got damaged and it was just never able to make a comeback. And after researching, what I found was Lebanon was never really able to recover because the civil war had lasted almost 15 years. And also at that time, the country's governing bodies like the law, regulation, and investor protection and other things were simply not strong enough to contain that situation. And once demand and capital starts flowing elsewhere for long enough time, it's extremely difficult for demand to return and capital to start flowing in again, and capital and demand doesn't really come in. The prices are not going up, they're only going in one single direction, which is getting pulled by gravity. So when you put all three countries together, then these patterns become more useful when you're analyzing Dubai. Hong Kong shows us that a city can evolve after disruption. Kuwait shows us that deep financial strength can significantly support recovery. Lebanon shows us how important strong governing bodies really are for a country, and without them, how bad things can actually keep on getting. And now when we apply that thinking to Dubai, my own analysis is actually pretty positive. If this conflict ends in the near future in a couple of months, then it's just going to be a pretty small shock to the economy, and very quickly things are just going to go back to normal. And let me explain what I personally think is working really strongly in Dubai's favor right now. First is the deep pockets. UAE has trillions in reserves, and even if the revenue from tourism or other sectors takes a short-term hit, they are more than capable of handling it. Reuters had also reported that UAE is projected to post a fiscal surplus in 2026, and Mubadala, which is the sovereign investment company in the Abu Dhabi, currently has 1.2 trillion dirhams under management. Second, Dubai is also a very well diversified economy with sectors like, of course, you got your tourism and real estate, the obvious ones, but also now they are involved in AI, crypto, and other things. Third, Dubai and the UAE is a neutral country, not just in this conflict, but in general as well. Today, Dubai is one of the very few places that still allows a lot of global players to do business relatively easy with the rest of the world. For example, Chinese businesses or Russian businesses, Indian businesses. Dubai acts as a very useful hub. It makes doing business much more easier with the rest of the world compared to if they were operating from their own home countries, for example. So Dubai still holds that advantage, and that is just not going away anytime soon. Now, if we analyze the good and the worst case scenario for Dubai real estate once the war ends, let's say if the US gets the Strait of Hormuz opened properly and gets Iran to meet its conditions, then I think that would be a massive boost. And on top of that, all the publicity that Dubai has received recently can very quickly start turning very positive. Now, let's also look at other scenarios, right? Let's say the world order starts to change, Iran ends up controlling the strait moving forward, and starts charging a toll on ships, which is essentially what they're demanding, right? And that also means that the rest of the world would be paying ransom to Iran. But anyways, right now, the numbers being talked about is 2 million on every single ship that passes by. Frankly, I think negotiations would take place if we were to come to that, and something lower would likely get agreed upon. But even if we stay with the worst case for the moment, Dubai's GDP relies less than 5% on oil exports. And that matters a lot because that helps us understand how shaky or not shaky Dubai's future plans might actually be, right? Now, for the rest of the goods coming in, yes, things might get a little bit more expensive. And as always, it's usually going to be the common man who's going to end up carrying up that cost. But even then, I don't think it affects prices as much as people might think. Because when goods are coming in, each vessel is usually carrying multiple billions of dollars worth of goods or oil in one single go. So even if $1 million is being charged, we're still talking about less than 1%. And even that cost really just gets spread out across all the products or whatever that vessel was actually carrying, right? So yes, that kind of setup could really help Iran's economy significantly. But from a Dubai real estate investment point of view, investors have to be forward thinking, right? That's how investments are made to begin with. And that's why I say that it will positively impact Dubai, assuming that the conflict ends in a few months at max. Because once all of this ends, what we may actually be looking at is in 90 days, 6 months, or a year from now, is a more permanent peace in this region, which is actually very positive for the region overall. But especially for the UAE, because Dubai is the major hub for trade in the Middle East. Now, there are many other things that I can talk about Dubai, but without making this video too long, I want to mention one of the most important things, which is also the most misunderstood things about Dubai, and that is Dubai's lock-in. A lot of people talk about the golden visa as if the main story simply is that invest money and get a golden visa. But to me, that is an incomplete explanation. Yes, the visa itself is useful, but the bigger point is that what is a byproduct of that visa? Golden visas really allow people to build a permanent life here. It gives them access to schools for the kids, healthcare, business opportunities, safety, and a really highest living standard. And once people start living that kind of life, it becomes a very difficult decision to make to go back to their home countries. When people are getting golden visas, they're not just parking money over here anymore. They start building a life over here. And that is what I mean when I say Dubai's lock-in. Not in a negative sense. I mean, it just gives people so many practical lifestyle advantages that it becomes very difficult to just walk away and go back to a low quality environment elsewhere. And I think that became even more obvious after the pandemic. A lot of people came to Dubai, experienced what the city had to offer, and then they simply stopped thinking about Dubai as a temporary place to just make money. They started thinking about Dubai as a place to actually build a life over here. And that changes how people behave during periods of uncertainty. People end up becoming more or being more patient. They become more committed. They become more willing to ride out the short-term storms. So when I put all of these things together, my personal conclusion is that Dubai's future is actually pretty bright, especially if the conflict ends sometime soon. And if it does, then the stronger fundamentals that are making Dubai grow in the first place are going to come back in focus very, very quickly. But if the conflict keeps on dragging for a really long time, then yes, people will need to think a bit much more or think a bit more carefully about what that means for them. It's already reported that there are signs of weaknesses in Dubai property in March 2026 during this war, which is to be expected, and the sentiment has obviously gotten affected. But I'm personally pretty bullish in Dubai's long-term growth story. Now, what sellers do from here and the type of buyers holding the property also matters significantly, and that's a topic for another time. But for this video, the main point is simple. Don't look at Dubai through the lens of fear alone, and also don't look at Dubai through the lens of blind faith either. Look at the fundamentals, look at the history, look at what makes a place resilient, and then make your own decision from there onwards. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, hit like, share it with somebody who might benefit from it, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy, guys. Cheers.